Hello there, welcome to Fulcrum and the Force. I'm Jim and this is my channel dedicated to everything Star Wars. And today, we're talking the Book of Boba Fett. Man, I don't know how he sees a thing in that helmet. So, Book of Boba Fett. We're 3 episodes in with a new episode coming out tomorrow. And I thought I'd just give my thoughts. There's a lot of people out there. It seems to have a lot of mixed reviews, which is interesting. Really interesting. You would have thought that this show would have just knocked it out of the park from straight away and everybody would love it. Now, I do love it. Is it perfect? No. Are there things that I'm not a massive fan of? Of course. That's just the way it is. You can't love everything. But I find some of the things that people are saying very, very interesting about why they don't like it. Now, I'm a kid of the original trilogy. I saw them all in '83 when Jedi came out. And Boba Fett was a huge character for me when I was a kid. He looks cool. He was cool in Empire Strikes Back, like a bounty hunter. You're like, wow, what? So he just goes around hunting people all the time. That's incredible. Just for money. For no reason, but just for money. And I was like, that's really, really cool. Obviously, he went out a little bit. Well, he went out like a bitch in Jedi. Fell down a hole, pushed by a blind man. Fine. But there was always the stories. There were always the books of what happened before that. And who he was before that. And I always loved those. And as a character, I always found him fascinating. And the idea that he, later on, the idea that he didn't actually die in the Sarlacc pit and he got out, it was like, wow. But that's like death to everybody, but not Boba Fett. Boba Fett. I'm going to keep saying Boba Fett. I'm going to mess it up. I know his name's Boba Fett. When you're a kid, you just called it what you saw it, and it sticks. So I'll try Boba Fett. So here we have a show where we're getting the story of not only what's happening now from here on, like since we saw him in Mandalorian, but also what happened in those years between the Mandalorian and when he was in the Sarlacc pit. And that's like 5 years. So there's a lot of stuff going on there. And I've seen a lot of people go, we don't want to see flashbacks. I do want to see flashbacks. Like the first time we see him in The Mandalorian, he's still on Tatooine without his armor. Like, what happened? What happened to him in all that time on Tatooine without his armor? Like, why doesn't he have his armor? Why did he not go and find it? Why is he still on Tatooine? Slave 1's obviously still about. Why didn't he go and grab that and rock off and go and do other things? So I want to know why he's not done any of that. And it's only 5 years later in The Mandalorian that he finally gets his stuff back from, well, the Jawas, but ultimately Mando and Cobb Vanth, obviously. So for people that are saying, oh, I don't want any flashbacks, I just want to know what's happening from here on out, I'm like, but flashbacks give him his story. Flashbacks flesh him out as a character. I don't understand. Do I want a show completely full of flashbacks? No, I don't. I do want to see a progressing story, but at the same time, you have to fill in those gaps. And personally, so far, I think the stuff that's been filling in the gaps has been the best part of the show. In episode 2, everything about episode 2 was just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Like, with the Tusken Raiders, and I see people arguing that, like, oh, well, the Tuskens are killers, they wouldn't do this. But it even says in the show, there's different tribes of Tusken Raiders. Some do, some don't. And, they're not just mindless killing machines. They are tribes of people at the end of the day. And giving them a bigger backstory, I think, is fantastic. I really like it. And everything that he's going through and everything that he's like been through kind of makes him who the person he is in the current time. Because a lot of people are like, oh, he's being too soft because he's all about respect. But it's clearly that's something that he's learned in that 5 years. Something that he's learned, obviously, from the Sand People or the Tusken Raiders, whatever you want to call them, in that time. So it's an important part of his story about why he's now looking to rule with respect as opposed to just being... Because he could quite easily just go off and carry on being a bounty hunter. And I think a lot of people wanted to see that. But then you run into the territory of... him, it just being the Mandalorian again, but the Mandalorian without Grogu. And I think that's where the show would struggle. So we do need to know what's gone on in his backstory to find out why he wants to rule Tatooine. And I think we're getting glimpses of that. We get glimpses of that where it's just like, you don't have the right to be here. This is Tusken land. You can't just do whatever you want and kill the Tuskens. And that's where his head's at now. And I'm really enjoying that. I'm enjoying the evolution of this character that used to just kill people for money. So it's like, we need that. It's very, very important to show who he is now and where he goes. And I think episode 2 did a fantastic job of that. Just really did. Episode 3 was interesting. Obviously, we only got little bits of a flashback and we got a lot more in current time. Not all my favourite stuff. I loved the fight with Chrysanthemum. I enjoyed the fact that the Hutts rocked up and were like, no, we're not getting involved in this anymore. There's bigger things going on here. Here, have a Rancor. Oh, not just have a Rancor. Here, have Danny Trejo and a Rancor. Thanks. That's the best gift in the world. And please, please, please let him, let Boba Fett's litter be him just rocking through Mos Espa on the back of a Rancor. Come on. That's amazing. That's all I want to see now. And I love that. I loved how it showed that there was compassion and heart inside of Rancor. And it's not just like this. That's what they're doing so well, is they're taking these characters that you're just like, it's a beast. No, it's not a beast. There's a lot more going on there than you think. And it kind of explains why the Rancor Keeper and Jedi was so upset when the Rancor died, because they'd obviously imprinted. And it makes it really sad. And that's the best part of the world building that I really, really enjoy. I don't think we've seen the last of Chrysanthemum. I think because Boba spared his life, sparing Wookiee's life is quite a big deal. I reckon he's going to come back. And I'm hoping that he comes back with Bosk and we get a whole proper, towards the end, them taking on the Pikes would be just incredible. That shot. But then we have to talk about the gang, the biker gang. I didn't hate the gang themselves. I didn't hate the premise of the gang. I was not a fan of their Vespers. Way too brightly coloured for Tatooine. And they've got all of this stuff going on, all of these crazy gadgets and whatnot, but they're stealing water. That doesn't make sense. They drink first, and then, probably, I'd understand it more if water wasn't a fact, and they're stealing parts for their bikes and for their bodies. That makes sense. That makes sense. Also, when Matey from Office Space was like, oh, they're cyborgs, they're adding bits to themselves. I was expecting more instead of just, I've got a patch on my eye. Oh, I've got a bit of metal on my arm. If you're going to do it full on. Make them part machine, Terminators, but only half Terminators. That would be awesome. I enjoyed the fight. The fight was very Rebels reminiscent. Of one of the first things in there when they're chasing down the speeder bikes. And we got to see the Maloo runs. And am I the only person who wants to taste a Maloo run? Yeah, so, interesting. I like the fact that he's got, Boba's got a bit of backup in this gang. I just think the execution of the gang's not quite what I would expect. Doesn't mean it's bad, just not quite what I expect. That's all right. That's the thing, is people are like, this is terrible, this is awful. Well, it's not terrible, it's not awful. It's just not what you kind of wanted. And I get that. Just because something's not what you wanted doesn't make it terrible. It just means it's different, And I think sometimes people forget that. We're in the golden age of Star Wars at the moment, where we're getting all these shows. And 20 years ago, we couldn't imagine getting all of this Star Wars content. And I think that's why I kind of let a lot of things go. I let a lot of things pass that other people don't, because I'm like, you know what, I'm loving it. It's just Star Wars. I'm getting to see Boba Fett. I'm getting to see Rancors. Fennec Shan's incredible. Although, is at any point she going to turn around and say, Boba, I met your sister? I don't know. And we're bringing a lot of lore in from the comics and stuff, and I'm enjoying that. And overall, I'm really loving this show. Is it as good as Mandalorian? I think that's a difficult comparison, because A, they're two different shows, and B, I think a lot of people are comparing this show to the last episode of season 2 of Mandalorian, which I'm not sure anything comes close to, Star Wars TV show wise. And so I think it's a little unfair of a comparison when we've only had 3 episodes and Mandalorian had 2 seasons. And it's a different story. That's a different story to this. I want to see more Underworld stuff. I want to see more of what's going on. And I think we will. People are complaining about how Boba's looking weak. I actually think there's more going on than we know. I don't think all of that is just him trying to get better from being in the Sarlacc, because that was like 5 years ago. I don't think with the amount of time that he's spending in the Bacta tank that he has only just started doing Bacta stuff. And in 5 years he was fine, because in the flashbacks he seems fine when he's fighting on that train. That train, as much as I do enjoy Solo, this is a better train sequence, hands down. And he seems fine. He seems to be able to fight, and he seems to be able to, do a lot. So I think there's actually something more happened to him and his body over that time, or it could be a case of that his body's breaking down now that he's older. I think there's more going on than just what we think. So I'm excited to see where it's going, and I'm looking forward to the new episode tomorrow. I'm not going to do a review like this for every episode. I'm going to do a couple of episodes and then do a review, because I don't always think you can necessarily get all the information from one episode. You need to go, okay, well, what's going on here? And then the following episode explains it. Group of 2, maybe 3, gives you a little bit more of an overview and kind of gives you an idea of where it's going. So in a couple of weeks, when there's been another couple of episodes, I'll probably jump on and give another review of those 2 episodes. Don't forget my guy Sam over at Absolute Sabres. I'll link his channel below. We do a live YouTube chat every Wednesday evening UK time about that episode of Boba Fett, and it normally descends into other Star Wars chat and sometimes just food chat, which is fun. So you should definitely check that out. But I thought I'd just jump on, give my thoughts specifically on the show, where it's going, what I think of it, and yeah, why people seem to just hate it. I don't understand hate. I can understand not a fan. I can understand this bit doesn't work. Hate. We live in a world where people just rag on everything because it's not exactly what they have in their mind, and it's ridiculous and it's exhausting. So if you're one of those people, just chill out, man. It's entertainment. Don't worry about it. But I hope you enjoyed that. Something a bit different. I've got some more videos coming up. I've got some different videos coming up. I figured it was time to just not completely do lightsaber videos all the time, although I do have a couple of those coming up too. But yeah, it was just a bit something to sit, chat, have fun. Not like a Jim's Cantina, because this is very specific about boba. But I'll have another one of those coming up soon as well. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Please like this video. Hit the bell so that you always can see my crazy face anytime I post a new video. But until next time, don't forget, we are one with the Force. And the Force is with us.